Good morning, good, wonderful, glorious day. It's a little bit cooler. Isn't that great? I want to welcome all of you and say thank you for coming out today and welcome to everybody on the Zoom. Um, we appreciate you being here and supporting these programs. Today, you're going to hear from a death doula. What in the world does a death doula do? Although many people have heard of doulas that provide support for mothers during the birthing process, few are aware of end of life support, which is also available by specially trained doulas. Today, we have with us Yvette Radis, whom I've heard speak and loved. And I heard my husband today saying to somebody else that she was the most impressive speaker from last year's series that encouraged us to bring this series here. So in 2018, Yvette took this training course offered by the Internet End of Life Doula Association, which is INELDA. So she is a certified EOLD, End of Life Doula. She loves being a doula, and you'll see that when she stands to speak. And she currently works at the Harmony Hospice as the volunteer coordinator and EOLD. Yvette started the End of Life Doulas in 2018. Her intention was to create a hub for local doulas, a place for them to come together and collectively support each other while working as end of life doulas. And with high standards, all doulas. Can you hear me when I turn this way? Not as well? Okay, good. Um, Let me start that part again. Her intention was to create a hub for local doulas, a place to come together collectively, support each other while working as end-of-life doulas. With high standards being met, all doulas will treat you with dignity, compassion, and respect right where you are. You can find end-of-life doulas online if you just put in Tucson End of Life, all one word, .com. And with that, I would like to introduce Yvette Bridis.
Hello. Um, I'm one of those loud talkers, and I'm gonna see how that goes. How's that for everybody? Okay. And if I get too loud, just tell me. So I consider myself an educator, more of an educator than a public speaker. So if my voice starts to crack a little bit, it's completely normal for me. I'll regulate myself as I go along, but there usually is a period of that. I'll warn you now. And then I'd like to start by saying thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share what an end of life doula is. It's certainly a passion for me and several others that I work with. But I want to start with a disclaimer. See, find my notes too. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that there is nothing new about what I bring to the table as far as a doula. It has been around for thousands of years. And just because I'm the older white woman standing up here, I would say I'm not an authority at all. There's communities that have been doing this work and still continue to do this work. a lot better than I do. So I just wanted to acknowledge that for everybody and myself. I kind of got into this work, just a little bit about me, by literally having a dream. I felt like I was visited by death. I was shown how we are all sort of um, milling about our lives, so to speak, without any awareness that someday we're going to die. That deeply moved me and started me on a quest back in 2016 to figure out what the heck that dream was about. And for me, what was I missing in my life? So out of that time came just this abundant knowing that I would be working at with people as they die. So, and that has been my purpose ever since. And I feel very lucky to have that have happened to me and that I am very passionate about what I do. So thank you for that. I did immediately start Tucson End of Life Doulas. It is a collective right now of working doulas. So if you go on that site, you will find several doulas. They all have different backgrounds. I would encourage you to read through the individual bios. And then the way the website is set up is you just reach out directly to that doula that you feel like you want to work with. So that's kind of a cool thing, I think. All right. So back to a little bit of, I'm probably only going to talk for about 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to probably pull up a chair and we'll just open it up for questions. I find that that's the most fun part when you guys I can just help you figure out how this might pertain to you. So doulas, so the actual definition is provide a range of non-medical holistic support to the dying person, their loved ones, and their family. So the services could include education, guidance, emotional support, spiritual support, and also practical care for a bed-bound patient at end of life. That time period we call vigil, and we are very trained into assisting and helping with the actual body at that point. Then we also follow through with the family and support for grief and bereavement time. So we do a wide range of things, and I want to stress again that this is non-medical support. Um, I personally, whenever I take on a new client that has a terminal illness and it is ending near coming to an end, their life is coming to an end, I highly recommend that they get on hospice. So hospice provides the medical piece. A doula can provide an emotional piece. And I can explain a little bit more how we work together on that. So just to open it up a little bit real quick, does anybody have a question on basically the definition of an end-of-life doula? Yes.
I guess my question is, what can you compare and contrast an end of life doula with a birth, um, a beginning of life doula? Is there any comparison to be made?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Um, I often have come to experience what I would feel very similar to uh, the birthing experience and the death experience. As far as a doula goes, we can support you in different ways. A lot of that is holding space. But one of the things I can speak to that I see over and over, I call it laboring. So at end of life, our bodies sort of, and our minds and our spirits sort of contract out into the universe. We have periods of unconsciousness, and then we come back into our bodies and we are settled back in. We kind of know what's happening, what's going on, and then we sort of do it again. I have written a paper on, I call that laboring, and I think it's something that all of us go through at end of life, and it's really fascinating and beautiful. As a doula, I would support you in a similar way as a birth doula by providing you comfort during those times, whether it be aromatherapy, sitting vigil so that you're not alone, music, all the things that would encourage your body to just to continue to relax into the process of the coming and going. Does that make sense to everybody as far as the ways we might be similar? Okay. And that's just one. There's lots of little things that happen along the way that I find similar. Thank you for the question. Beautiful. Anyone else have any fun little tidbits that are bubbling up for them right now? Oh, okay. So one of the other things I wanted to kind of just talk to a little bit of the nuts and bolts about what you look for when you might be wanting a doula. Oh, oh, I'm sorry. I would love to have your question.
Do you also consider yourself a health advocate or a patient advocate, where you also work with, if you see someone struggling in pain and they can't express it, but you can tell, do you work with the staff in getting that comfort for the patient?
Yes, very much. So being a doula, similar again to a birth doula, is that you are sort of the in between. So you do advocate for the patient. I try not to overstep my bounds as being a non-medical person into the medical realm. That doesn't mean that I don't know what medications you're on at end of life, that I don't know what medications work for you, and very aware of when they're not being administered properly and all of those things. So I might not be saying, hey, can you prescribe them some lorazepam? But I am going to say, did they miss their dose? Who is monitoring when those meds are coming? And then if there needs to be education with the staff, the family, then I call a hospice nurse and we come out and we do it.
If a patient is alive, obviously, but unresponsive, can you sense whether they are in pain?
Yeah, a lot of times you can notice their body language. They might be something called grimacing, where they'll be making a strained face. That's an indication of pain. Um, a lot of times, what I do, because I'm just bringing myself to the table, I'm a very sensitive person. So a lot of times I can just move my hand towards the body and I won't even be touching you. Like I might be 8 inches out, but if I'm bringing my hand towards you and you flinch your hand, that tells me you're so sensitive as well. And that actually loudness and people touching you or fretting over you might not be the best thing for you. But as I get in closer to you, if I feel you reaching towards me, then that means to me you want some comfort, you want some touch. So I have ways that I have learned how to read the body, but I would say anybody can learn how to do that. And it's just really paying attention to what's happening with the person. I think we have another question over here. Did that answer your question? Okay. Okay.
This might be too personal for you, but I walked in a couple of minutes late. What piqued my interest was your commentary about a dream that transformed your life about death. Did I miss that you explained the iconography and content of that dream in any way? Because that seems so powerful that I'd be, if you're willing to share it, if you're not, I totally understand that's private territory. But being a person that's very involved with mythologies and dream states, that would be powerful.
Thank you. Is everyone up for hearing a little story? Yeah. Okay. So yes, thank you for that. So the dream was, I was sitting, I can't even like, so the dream was kind of timeless. I was very aware that it was me in the dream, and I was in a forest and then overlooking a city. And I was sitting on something, I don't really know what, and I was observing this mist that was running through everything. It was in the forest, it was in the streets, it was all over the buildings, it was everywhere. It wasn't scary, it was just this mist. And everybody was going along doing whatever they do, and no one noticed it. And then what came to me from it was this is death. Like death is all around us, and no one is paying attention to it. No one is noticing. We're just busy doing what we do. So when I woke up from the dream, I just had this deep knowing that death had something to tell me and something to teach me. And as I have developed my own, what I call death practice or death awareness, is every day I get up and I say to myself, this could be it. You could die today. It is a direct path to presence, awareness, and making choices that are important to me. So thank you for the question.
Do death doulas or end of life doulas help with the business of death, sort of the things that need to be done when a person dies?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So I would say that doulas come from many different backgrounds. So we have doulas that are specialized in advanced care planning, that do the nuts and bolts of what I call making sure that your estate's in order, all of those things. They either do it themselves or help you refer out, and you work to partnership with, lawyers, whatever that needs to happen. So that's definitely one thing. Also, a lot of doulas bring so much knowledge. There are nurses and social workers and office managers, and so when you have a particular need for a doula, it is very good to read through their bios and vet them for yourself, and you can find someone that's a perfect fit. Yeah, absolutely.
How many clients do you take at a time?
I probably have never taken. So the question was, how many clients do we take at a time? There's some doulas that work full time. There's a woman in LA. She's LA doula. She has a team of 10 doulas that work, and they take constant. They work as a team, so they take lots and lots of clients. So it is kind of all over the board. For me, I've never really taken more than 3 at a time, just because I didn't. It's just about all I can do.
Okay, I guess my question would be when you're with a person that's dying, how much time are you actually spending with them?
That depends on the plan of care that we have come up with. So I'm available to sit vigil with someone who, from beginning to end, along with a team of doulas, if that schedule needs to be covered. However, I do try to encourage family members, friends to fill that part of the schedule as much as possible, because I feel like it is really about the family, not just an outside person coming in. But we have very much the ability to, if you are alone and you don't have any children and you want to hire a doula, we can cover that entire process for you. So it's kind of both. But that is determined during the plan of care and how you want to use your doula. So there's usually no surprises on how much I will be working or not working with a client.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does the person who's in the terminal situation, the one who calls for you, how about family members that are concerned and feel that they have difficulty communicating with their person that they're with, their family member?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I would say it happens both ways. I'll give you a couple of examples and stories. So I worked with a couple who did not have any children, and they were married late in life. And the husband was terminally ill, and he reached out to me because he wanted to hire a doula for his wife. So I was supporting him, but mostly I was emotional support for her. And we worked out the schedule and we set vigil with him. He wanted to die at home. We made sure all of those things happened. It was very important to them that she be bedside, holding his hand for his last breath. So we made sure that happened. So that's one example. And then another example is I have been called by an entire family entity to help support the mother. The mother did not want support. The mother was completely fine. What ended up happening is I ended up supporting the family in letting the mother do things the way she wanted to do it, because they had an agenda for her. They wanted her to do treatment. They wanted her to continue her care in the medical field, fighting terminal illness. She didn't want to. She already knew she didn't want to. So really my job became helping the family to just let go and let her still be in charge of her life and accept what was happening. So that was another way we can do it.
We have a question from online. Can you project that, please? Well, if we have another question from in-house, we'll have that first. That's okay.
Did you have any follow-up on your dreams? No, that's right. Did you have any follow-ups after that? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just curious, after that dream and your life's work changed, you became refocused, reconstituted in that way. It's fascinating. Did any of the dreams follow up that informed you or guided you in your insight into this work?
I would say I've never lost connection with my dreams. I'm fortunate to be a lucid dreamer, and I have been a lucid dreamer most of my life. And yes, I continue to have dreams about things. I'm not sure where I should look for the question for the online.
Yes, me. Hello, can you hear me?
We had a family member a while back that wanted to commit, they wanted to die by them, not in front of a family member or supervised. And how do you handle patients that want to commit suicide and they really sometimes don't know how to do it? In the case I'm thinking of, the person tried to take pills sufficient, but they weren't sufficient. And so they came back, oh, darn, it didn't work. And then the family got involved. But somehow, I think the family and the person needed some advice, or I'm not sure what you can provide. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, that's it.
Did everybody hear the question and comments? So I would say as a death doula, this is a very common question. It comes up a lot with families, especially when you have a terminal illness, your pain is not being managed and cannot be managed, and you are kind of done. When I'm talking to people, what I'm listening for is, I feel complete here. I'm finished. My business is, I'm done. And I am an advocate for medical aid in dying. I'm an advocate for VSED, which is voluntary stop eating and drinking. That is something that I can help and do help clients with understanding. I do also counsel my clients. It's not a good idea to think you can save up all your pills or take all of that morphine at one time, because 90% of the time it just doesn't work that way. And what happens, and I'll be very frank here, is that when it's illegal to assist somebody in taking their own life. It's murder. So no one is advocating that anybody do that. But what happens is you think you can take all of these pills or take this extra morphine. It's going to slow you down for a while, and you're probably going to come out of it unless someone is administering to you. And then no one how are we're not suggesting that or doing that for the people that we love. It is important to get involved in the local laws around passing medical aid and dying in Arizona. The other alternative that's gaining a lot of popularity right now and momentum is voluntary stop eating and drinking. With the right education, with your families on board, a person is very capable of taking matters into their own hands in a very gentle way. Voluntary stop eating and drinking sort of mimics the natural death process after about 2 days. So it is a gentle way to help your loved one. And yes, I have those conversations with families all the time. Did that answer your
And we
question?
have an online question.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what is the cost for doula services?
Oh, great question. So all doulas at this point are private pay or self-pay. Their hourly rate ranges, I would say anywhere from 75 to 150 an hour, depending on where you're at in the country. But it is not accepted by insurance at this point, or so it's definitely self-pay out of pocket.
Okay, thank you.
Pardon me. So when you make your care plan, part of that is talking about how many hours and what is included and
Absolutely. So since doulas are self-pay, some people, are on more limited economics situation, which is absolutely fine. That's why we try to get friends and families involved to cover lots of the schedule. And then you can use your doula for the nuts and bolts, like figuring it out, help you plan it, education, and things like that. However, I will say there are a lot of doulas that are coming out of schools that are looking to be certified. And similar to the birth doula process, they need to have a few work with patients and people and families. So if you reach out to anyone probably at Tucson End of Life Doulas and you do not have the means to hire a doula, I can guarantee you we can find you somebody who's willing to do it for the casework. That makes sense. Yeah.
so I have done hospice work as a social worker. And so do you have any overlap? It sounds like there's a lot of overlap between possibly a chaplain and a social worker. And so how do you work that out? I mean, hospice is free, you cost money. So how do you work that out?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I've been working at hospice for the last 6 months as the volunteer coordinator and end of life doula. So I'm currently coming up with a job description for doulas within hospice that don't overlap the other modalities. However, there are always going to be crossovers between the different disciplines in hospice, which we kind of like a little bit. We're finding that there is some comfort in that. But I will say some of the differences or where you could use your doula if you have a hospice and want to fully take advantage of all the disciplines that you have is in the legacy work, the vigil, sitting vigil, and planning vigil. Those aren't really covered right now in hospice. And it seems like a really good area to have a doula come in. One thing I will say about doulas that really separates us from the other disciplines within hospice is that we have the ability to have unmet time. So if you have a hospice social worker, they really are there for about 15 minutes once a month. So you can get some things done. They will help you get that, but it is not the hours that a doula can put in if needed. And then also one of the differences I would say about doulas that's my favorite is that we don't have an agenda. We're not trying to, we just don't have an agenda. Spiritual directors have an agenda. Um, uh, Nurses, like everyone that you're going to meet on the hospice team has a definite plan for you. Doulas don't. We get to sit back, we get to listen to you, we get to figure out what it is that you need, and we get to just meet you right where you are. And to me, that's kind of where the magic happens.
Other questions? Other comments?
I know, so fun, right? You guys have been so great. I just want to say I love all the conversations so much. And it's so fun to be able to talk about the work with you and the curiosity that you all have. It's just lights me up. So one of the things, like, I mean, I can just move along a little bit in the talk. How are we doing for time? Is it?
We're doing fine.
We're doing fine. Okay. Couple of other things. Let me just look through here, make sure that I kind of covered anything that I wanted to. So I guess one of the things that I wanted to add is that If you are looking to hire a doula, that tells me and the other doulas that you might contact that you are looking to be really intentional with your end of life. And I think that that's something that is really neat and new to what's happening for the death positive movement. There's lots of there's death cafes, there's death over dinner. I mean, we really are talking about death now in a positive way. And I just think that being intentional about this incredible event and staying curious about it to me is what the work is for me.
Oops, oops, oops. Wait for the people online. We need to hear your questions. Sorry.
If you've been newly diagnosed with something that is definitely, the end, and let's say you're still living at home at that point, do you come to the home to counsel and comfort at that point, or do you just come out when it's the end?
I think a lot of times the way it works out is we kind of enter the situation at the very end where it's a little more crisis. So unless you are being very intentional about how you want things to go at end of life and bring a doula in earlier, I do find that it's usually the end is kind of where it's at. However, the sooner, if I was working with someone who received a terminal diagnosis, I would encourage them to immediately get on hospice, because the longer that you have these comfort measures and and your symptoms being managed, it's never really too soon to start that. And also palliative care, so starting this process earlier gives you a lot of freedom to really take a look at what's important, how you want to spend this last time that you have, coming to terms with what's happening to you. There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of grief. There's a lot of anticipatory grief. And so the sooner you can get professionals around you, including doulas, to start supporting you, it does make it go a lot smoother, if that's your intention. Some people want to go out kicking. They're like, no, I'm going out and I'm taking that last chemo treatment. And that's fine too. This is really about whatever you want, whatever feels good to you. Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay, I'm ready. This is Sherry. I'm online. I would appreciate you talking about.
So if there's no more questions, I kind of like to leave it with this little thought for you. If you're not sure about doulas and you know that you're just starting to think about your own mortality and end of life and what that means, I think for me, what I like to talk about is really taking advantage of the time you have and really being able to do the things that you really want to do. And that includes saying the things that you need to say to the people you need to say them to. At end of life, a lot of the crises that I see that turn into physical ailments, terminal agitation, and things that are very uncomfortable are usually have to do with unresolved business. So I always like to encourage, that old saying, say what you need to say. It just doesn't get any easier than that. And I think that when we're at end of life, there's this natural desire and wanting to sort of just, take a big overlook at our life and see what we've done and what's been important and what's been magical, and then how we want to leave that. There is another practical question that I like to leave people with. And
we have another online question.
Oh, sure.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me? I'm Sherry. I'm just wondering how you incorporate and if you do music and any other modalities, perhaps acupuncture, water, And I also would like for you to address, how do you help people define what they want for their legacy? And do you help design or work with them in describing what they want for some kind of a funeral or memorial or celebration of life? Thank you.
All the different questions and questions and questions and so can you go a little bit slower on? I feel like there's more than one question there.
How do you incorporate other modalities, music, acupuncture, etc.?
Address that one. Hello. Okay. So yes. So when I was talking about the different backgrounds of all the doulas, and part of the vetting process for you when you're looking for a doula is to see who does what. However, most doulas have all come to the consensus that we cannot do this work alone. That's one of the reasons I started the collective. And all of us have specialties. So currently, I have a master's level aromatherapist that I can work with. I have a hospice trained acupuncturist that I work with quite a bit. Um, Music, absolutely. There's the Threshold Choir here in Tucson that will come and wash over you with their beautiful singing. So absolutely. And then I also am a practice Celtic shamanism. That is my direct lineage. And so I do ritual within all of my doula work. It's just sort of part of what I do as a doula. Not everyone does, but if you are looking for more ritual or some shamanic work, there's plenty of doulas that could cover that.
And also, what about helping people think about what their legacy is, what they want to define in their legacy, and or writing a celebration of life?
That part is so fun. And it's super great to get the grandkids involved and the family members involved. And I would say some people have an idea of what they want to do for legacy coming right in, and then some people have no idea. And I'll share this little fun story. So I was working with a family that had several grandkids. The grandpa is the person who's terminally ill, and he had already prearranged to have his body donated. And the grandkids were like, wait, what? Where's your body going? And then I'm not joking, like there's 9 of them and they all get very involved with what's going to happen to Papa's body, right? Well, long story short, Papa is Christmas ornaments, glass ornaments that they all have. And he would have never saw that coming. And so things and legacy work does change. And I just think I love that for them so much. And then also, one of the things that I like to talk about with legacy that I like to work with my clients specifically on is really taking a look at the overall picture of our lives, because I think that we're not as separate as we think we are from our legacies. I truly believe with all my heart that our lives are our legacy, and being able to identify what it is that we have done here and how we've been involved and how we've been connected into this world, I think is very important to talk about. And I do believe that that is our mark. And yes, it's great to leave photo albums and write letters and have celebration of life. But when you really bring it in, what did you do here? What's important to you? What mattered to you? And I think that's important to share.
Dying? Oh, no, not dying yet. This will be my last question, but I was going to put it in the third voice, but I'm not. It's not honest. In my own psychic space, I'm also a lucid dreamer. I'm thinking of myself in 5, 10 years hence, okay? And I'm trying to figure out, why would I want to hire your group? That's just that simple. And I'm saying to myself, I don't buy into 99% of what, and I've done a lot of research on this, I mean, years, religious belief, mythology. I've read all the mythologies, but my point is, none of that, it's wonderful, but it doesn't comfort me. I do not believe in a hereafter. Existentially, I am tough to deal with because it's honest. You know, it's not theoretical, conversational. I really suffer through the fact of that anxiety, and I'm very much alive. So here I am, 10 years hence, and I'm saying, why would I hire you? Because I'm not going to be comforted by the usual pathways that are established. That is going to tell me I'm going to meet my relatives when the light hits. I know them all, and I'm thrilled that people believe it and it happens, but I haven't yet arrived. So you get the point. Existentially, I'm very ambivalent. And so if you're going to comfort me, it's not going to work on the levels that many people are looking for resolution. I am saying very specifically, I'm a stubborn SOB New Yorker. So here I am. What are you going to do for somebody like myself that's been fighting this and thinking about it for 8 decades? I'm dying, and please don't give me the standard institutional responses, but I'm feeling a lot of pain. And I don't know if I will cross the rubric. I'll be there. I don't want to go on and on, but you get the point very clearly. So how are you going to alleviate something that's genuine, that I can believe in, that's not fabricated in terms of the mythologies that surround us about God, religion?
Thank you. You're incredibly refreshing, and I appreciate it.
Not many people feel that.
Okay, I'm just going to meet you right where you are right now. It's not my job to comfort you as a doula. It's my job to be present for you in your suffering and to not turn away, no matter how much you're suffering. But it is not my job to fix it in any way. However, I would say biologically, our bodies are going to die. Whether we have a spiritual conception of where we're going, there is proven facts around and science around. If you do have a belief system, it does sort of make it a little easier. But if you are from New York and you're an SOB and you don't have one, you get to have it's just what it is, right? You can't make it up, you know. And it's funny because people do fake it. They fake it all the way till the end. They pretend like they believe in something. And then at the last minute, they know they don't. And that's when, no offense, shit can hit the fan for them emotionally and spiritually. What I would say though to you, to answer your question directly, is that biologically we are going to die. So our amygdala is going to fire. We are going to fight it. And there is going to be fear. I'm also a nervous system regulation coach, and I would probably go that route with you. Just let's regulate your body. Let your mind do what it's going to do, but your body's going to fuel that because it's dying. The natural process. That makes sense. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, I hear what you just said, but I was present with both my parents, and my dad died 3 deep breaths and he was gone. You know, no fight, nothing, just like, you know, anyway. My mother fought it all the way, you know. So what you said about the physical aspect, you know, that was hard for me to hear because I believe some people, if they're really ready, they just go and it's peaceful. There isn't any fight. So I just question that.
Yeah. And I do think that you're right. Like some people don't have a problem with it, but it can be very dysregulating. It depends on it really just depends on the person. Like I know I have and there's a lot of studies being done, and I hate to even speak to them directly, but it's around trauma and mental health and, how the body, stressed out the body has been and how much survival mode we've had to be in. And then at the same time, all of those things could happen and the person can let go easy. But I guess for me is that I just want to try to be supportive if it happens. But there's really no one. That's the other thing too. All of our death and our dying process is just as individual as our birth. It's different for there's similarities. Yes, we're all going and coming, but it's all very unique. Yeah.
So how are we doing?
I know it can be a heavy subject. I'm a bit light. So let me just end with this. So one of the things that we like to encourage people who are just beginning to think about their end of life, and this addresses some practicality and also can be in the realms of spiritual and emotional, is this one question. When do you go from being alive and living to dying in your own mind, in your own world? And that's kind of the realm that can help direct a lot of your process in planning and thinking about. Sure. I'll just say it in the I form so you can ask yourself, when do I go from being alive and living to dying? And what does that look like? Thank you so much for your time and your questions and your beautiful curiosity. It was an honor to be here today.
And a hearty thank you to Yvette. From the smiles I've seen on people's faces around the room, I think your message was well taken. And having a doula granddaughter-in-law, she is a birth doula. Nonetheless, I know that they're very caring people whose hearts are open to the person who is on the journey to passing over and the whole family. And it's really a wonderful thing, something for you to consider for yourself or for a loved one. And Yvette has very nicely put a few flyers out on the table in the Oasis room, and we ask you to join us there. There will be some refreshments, and there's some new visuals out there that I just walked out and went, wow. I don't know who did that, but it's pretty great. So you may want to take a look at those. We appreciate all of you on the Zoom for joining us today. And please recognize that we're guinea pigs here. We're pioneers. This is the first public offering of lectures by the congregation, and we're learning all the time. Today, we finally got the questions from online people, which unfortunately I neglected to gather all of them last week. There was one woman who was caring for her mom and needed to move her, but didn't know whether she should or not. So she sent a text to the office here and to the person who put out all of our information online talking about these lectures. And we got her to the right person that can help her with the questions of should she move her mother within the last 2 months. And I'm very grateful that she had the persistence that she did. So thank you again. And please join us out in the Oasis room for some refreshments and a little conversation about what you heard. And I'm sure Yvette will be able to answer personal questions for you as well. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.